Okay guys, welcome back. This is the Space Station Podcast, episode 11. My name is Adam Wheatley and I'm joined today by Annie, Kieron and Tom. We might get a few people joining in the middle, but for now, this is us. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I'm
Annie's
good.
just silent. Yeah. Annie was just like, yeah. So, yeah, everyone's doing well. Week 11, it's flying by. Can't believe we've done 11 of these so far. So, yeah, we'll keep them going. This week, I wanted to talk to you about a few things that have been going on in the news. One of the articles that popped up for me last week that I was a bit taken aback by was there was an incident near the Strand where a pregnant lady was approached by a gang on scooters. Asked her for the time, and as they drove off, they kicked her in the back and she actually fell into the lake. And there's been other incidents like that around the Strand where gangs have been showing up and basically either pushing people in the lake or attacking people. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, obviously now that lockdown restrictions are being lifted ever so slightly, have you guys heard about any incidents of antisocial behaviour going on in your area? So yeah, open the floor to you. Have you had any experience of it?
I got experience.
Okay.
I don't live in Bootle. I live West Derby area.
Yeah.
And there is one time this crazy man in the Costa Park woods with telling people to go home.
Right.
Yeah, go home because it is social distance, like a crazy man.
Oh wow! So someone was out actually trying to get people to go home.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you heard? How do you feel about those news stories that you heard about antisocial behaviour? Does that make you more reluctant to go out? Do you feel safe going out to the likes of Croxton Park?
No, not really, because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. How about you, Key?
I think I've seen a lot more young people around my area, out and about and things, but we've got a community Facebook page which my mum checks regularly, and there hasn't been much posted to do with antisocial behaviour in the area. But
Yeah.
obviously, because there's mixed messages from the government now about people can go out for extended periods of time, this, that and the other, I think to some young people it's like, oh, that's a cue for us to be able to go out with our mates and do whatever, but they're not thinking about what they're doing or the impact it's having on other people and stuff like that. And
yeah, for sure.
Keeping themselves safe.
Yeah, I think at the minute, obviously there are going to be people that are wanting to get out and see the friends, and there are going to be some parents that don't enforce those rules, the social distancing and no, you've got to stay in. Unfortunately, there's not an awful lot police can do, especially if you're under 16. The most they can do is ask people to go home and disperse. But if you don't listen to that advice, it's not as if you can be fined or arrested. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. What do you think, Annie?
I was going to ask you both. There has been quite a lot of bad press around young people, from all over Sefton and Liverpool. Do you think it's a fair representation of young people from your area?
Not really, no.
No.
Why? Tell us why.
I think, because I think, young people can be dragged into, big crowds of vulnerable people, vulnerable young people as well. And, it's like somebody tells one person to do something and they do it. So it's really they don't want to do it, but they feel pressured into doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm sorry, go on, Tom.
I did the same thing what Kieran said, because you lead into the people and you don't know what to do.
So what do you think could help this situation?
I think, like, obviously, like, during and non-during lockdown. During lockdown, it's a lot harder to be able to, like, engage these young people in something different, to, like, teach them something new, or to learn something new, or to, like, start a new hobby or something. Obviously, because people have to stay socially distant and they're not allowed to, like, businesses are starting to reopen, but the likes of youth centres, youth clubs, they're going with, like, the advice that's given to schools. It's difficult for people to, like, engage them on, like, different types of projects or activities for stuff for them to do.
Yeah.
And I guess that is the thing, isn't it? Where young people would gather, at school, a youth club, they're not there at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tom?
I think the same, because you don't know where to, like, if, like, gangs, like, kids, teenagers by the shops and all that, then stay there, but then not go to school and nothing anymore, because it then say in the shops and big gangs of them. It'd be better, like, than go to, like youth clubs and learn about why you want to be in a gang and what things you don't want to be in a gang.
Yeah. I think this particular time, there are going to be young people that have been pulled into gangs or pressured into gangs. I was reading an article literally before we started this. They were saying that gangs are actually getting young people who they've pulled in to be in the gang dress up as key workers to sell drugs, because they're less likely to be stopped by the police. And I think gangs that are quite active in society are going to prey on those vulnerable individuals to do their dodgy bidding. Do you know what I mean? And it's hard because, as you say, the usual interventions that would be available to them, like school, youth clubs, even just being able to go and see friends, it's much harder to access those positive interventions and much easier for the negative stuff to obviously take hold. But going on from obviously talking about going to youth centres and stuff, as it stands now, how safe would you guys feel going to a youth centre? Like, let's say, for instance, we were to say, right, space is open tonight. Would you be up for going, or would you stay at home?
That's a hard one, because it's 50-50, because want to go and meet everyone again.
Yeah,
But I'm so sad about this coronavirus and other people, like, not
of
following
course.
the rules properly.
Yeah, how about you, Kate?
I like the same sort of thing that Tom's just said. I'm 50-50 with it, because, like, for me, I could either walk or get the bus. But, like, for example, if college opened up again and space opened up at a similar time, it'd be a case of me coming in from, like, town to get to then coming into Bootle. It's the, like, it's the travel that,
Yeah.
like, puts me off in things, because, like, the times I would usually travel, at peak times when the trains are, like, full and stuff like that.
Of course. And that's going to be a big concern for a lot of the young people that come to space, is the actually get into space.
Yeah.
We can make it as safe as possible in the centre, but leaving your home to come to the centre, you're always going to be at risk. So one of the things that we have been talking about as a staff team is what space is going to look like when we reopen. And we touched on it a little bit last week. But I know that today, Kerry and Brian have been in space doing a bit of a risk assessment and actually walking around to see how we can enforce the 2 metre social distancing throughout the centre. And I know that there are some things where, like the music studio, for example, for those that don't know, the music studio is split into 2 rooms. We've got the live room, which is like a standard band practice room, and then we've got a control room, which is where the studio Mac and the recording setup is situated. The live room it's quite a decent size, but for the size that it is, we will probably looking at maybe getting 2 to 3 people in there maximum, just because of how social distancing would work. Whereas the control room, we get a maximum of one. So that's one person. That's not one person with a staff member. That's one person total. So when we do eventually get back to space, the way that we deliver sessions at the moment will change, even down to something as small as the room that you're used to doing your sessions in might be different. And that might not be the case for the likes of the drama and youth theatre group, because obviously we've got the big hall, but the way those sessions will be delivered will look a little bit different, just because we've got to keep everyone 2 meters apart for as long as we're advised to. So with that in play, how does that make you feel, like the idea of, space being open but the sessions being delivered a little bit differently?
I think with with room changes, it'll feel really different.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the way rooms are set up and stuff like that, or the likes of if we didn't use the control room, to do sessions or stuff like that. I think in terms of like the delivery of the sessions, I don't think it'd change that much, apart from everyone is socially distant between each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, there is obviously stuff there that we have to keep in place until, the government have obviously said we don't, we no longer have to social distance, sort of thing.
Of course.
Okay.
You got anything to add there, Tom?
Yeah, because if people who is there to go to space, like this, like the Zoom work is, people can go on Zoom and watch people who are in space.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
So,
if like, say, I'm not going to space today, I still want to join into space, like with this Zoom.
So one of the things that I spoke to Kerry about earlier on was the idea of a youth theatre session. And I don't know whether, Annie, you've had similar discussions. I only spoke to Kerry briefly before. And one of the ideas that they've come up with is to have a camera set up in the hall pointing towards the dance mat, the stage area. And the idea would be that you'd have a camera on the session broadcasting to Zoom, and then the Zoom people would be on the projector screen. So you'd have a full visibility of what's going on in the hall, and say Annie delivering the session. But those that didn't want to physically be there could still be involved and would still be active.
That's how I meant. Yeah.
So there's that way of doing things as well. I think we have been told, Annie, about like guidelines about being active, haven't we? Like there's certain things that we can and can't do in terms of physical activity. So obviously the way sessions are delivered at the moment, that might look a little bit different due to that as well. But I don't know the specifics on that. One thing I am curious to know is that if you did come back to the centre, obviously all these rules and all these things are in place, and you did come back to the centre and we were operating social distancing 2 meters apart, and you witnessed 2 of the young people breaking that social distancing, how would you react to that?
It's a hard one. I think upsetting and angry, because we follow the rules. Like me and Kieran following the rules, but other people don't follow the rules.
Yeah.
That makes us angry and upset. It's not fair.
Would that make you less likely to return to space if you knew that was happening?
Yes, I think.
I think for me, it'd be more of a case of if that does happen, we should enforce like you've got to wear a mask rule type of thing.
Okay.
And obviously make sure people are washing their hands, this, that, and the other, because it's okay, like saying, oh, we'll enforce a 2 meter rule, but it's also like the surfaces and things people touch, like opening doors, stuff like that, using the bathrooms. It's, it's obviously that as well. But I think Yeah, I don't really know how I'd feel. It's a hard one.
What?
I got
Oh, go on.
okay in like zoos. It's got this bubble of children.
Hmm.
This is what we talked about last week about Kieran, Buddha, about this bubble of children, like a group of children can stay in one bubble and then a group of other children stay another, but they not mix.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Why do we not do like something like that in space?
it's a good idea.
It's a good idea. I was going to ask, like, what else could we do to make sure that you guys felt safe coming back to space?
Like different like that bubble thing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what? Because if we were to put a load of guidelines into place and say, look, guys, you all need to do X, Y, and Z to come back to the centre, and then if you don't follow these guidelines, this is the repercussions of it. What would you guys want us to do to make sure that you feel safe to come back?
I think maybe the likes of coming up the stairs at space and walking through the corridor to get to the different rooms. I think possibly we could have like markings on the floor for like an in and an out, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
The people entering the center, is one side. People leaving the center is the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when people are entering, make sure the anti-bac the hands, wash the hands before and like when they enter the center and before they leave the center.
Yeah.
And
I got one like a staff member by the door, and because that button is some people
Yeah.
don't want to press it. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
So for one thing that we would probably do there in that instance is when sessions are on, outside we'd have like a queuing system. So obviously instead of people being bunched up outside waiting to come in, we'd have like supermarkets, the way they've got the queuing system at the minute where there's lines on the floor, just to keep people apart.
Yeah.
But then when the session starts, we make sure that those doors were open so you didn't actually physically touch anything when you're walking up. So think about the two fire doors, for instance. They could be held open with wedges or whatever it might be, and you just come in one at a time and go straight up the stairs. You wouldn't have to press the buzzer or grab the door handle. And then the other thing that we're talking about is that when you do get upstairs, there'll be a hand washing station and an antibacterial station as well. And other things we're looking at is obviously the toilet situation. We're still working on that. But one thing that got mentioned today was the idea that to go to the toilet, you would go down the usual corridor, but then when you were finished, you'd have to come out and go round the back of the hall, down the other way. So it was like a one-way system. So you'd enter the toilet and then you come out and you go the other way to come all the way back round again. It'd be things like that we've got to implement. And I think one thing we need to make really clear is that these rules aren't just for you guys, they're for us as well. And the repercussions and the ramifications of us not following the rules would be just as bad, if not worse. Do you know what I mean? So we will be following them just as stringently.
I think we should make like a video about it, like a video about like what to do when you walk in space.
Yeah, well, me and you seem to be on the right lines there, Tom, because that's something that we are going to be working on.
Like you read his mind.
Yeah. So the idea is that before you'd even come back to space, there'd be a video for you to watch to show you what the experience will be like. So if there is a queuing system, this is where the queuing system will be and how to use it. And then when you walk through the door and you come up the stairs, this is what you'll be greeted with. We'll be going through it all step by step. And obviously there'll be staff members on hand for those sessions as well. We're looking at usually for larger sessions like youth theatre and dance, there's usually 2 members of staff, but we're looking now that there'll be 3 members of staff. Because obviously we're going to need someone downstairs, we're going to need someone in the room delivering the session, and we're going to need someone on the corridors as well. So you'll probably see more of a staff presence at space to help work out these new guidelines.
And I think maybe we should do something where we leave all doors open. So the likes of the likes of Brian's room, and if the band room does get used, all the doors stay open so that not everyone's touching all the work surfaces or the door handles, etc.
Yeah.
Just so that, and then obviously overnight everything's wiped down, anti-backed, and before it reopens again as well.
Yeah, it would be after every session. Any kind of new group would be cleaned. I'm intrigued about what are your thoughts about using masks or any sort of like gloves.
I think gloves are gloves are worse in a way, because whatever you touch with those gloves is going to be on those gloves, even like if you touched it with your hand, basically. So I don't think wearing gloves would be that effective, because you'd still have to wash your hands anyway, and to back your hands anyway. So I think if you're going to put gloves on, it's basically the same as whatever you touch with your hands, except you've got gloves on.
Fair point. Yeah.
And I think with masks, it's a bit of a weird way, but you're not breathing like everyone else's. I don't want to make this sound weird or mean, but germs. So if anyone does, accidentally sneeze or cough or whatever, it's contained in the mask. It's not going to be, like in the open air for everyone else to breathe, droplets in or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people like masks. You can't hear nothing, and you can't. Sometimes some people can't wear masks because they can't breathe. Yeah. What we should do about that?
Yeah. So again, like we haven't come up with a guideline to say that everyone's got to wear masks at the minute. We're just kind of trying to get your views on the efficacy of masks and the best uses for them. I know that masks for me, they make me feel a little bit safer when I'm out shopping. So I'm thinking, does that translate as well, being in the youth centre, as you said, Key? If let's say for instance, I suffer with hay fever. So if I'm in the centre and my hay fever gets set up and I start sneezing, having a mask on might be beneficial in that scenario. Do you know what I mean? So I think, as it stands now, we're not forcing anyone to wear masks, but that might change.
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked the question, because I know on a personal level, I really struggle wearing masks. I've got really sensitive skin, so it really irritates my skin, which then causes itchiness, and it just isn't worth the irritation. But obviously, I would do if you guys felt safer. Of course, I would wear a mask. Do you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like getting a bit of an idea of what would support you guys to stop any anxiety from coming back.
I think on that point, I think I'd feel much safer, Annie, if instead of you wearing a mask, you just wear full scuba gear. So big oxygen tank on your back, big snorkel, full goggle mask.
They're two different type of masks. It's a mask I do that, but a mask to that, like a high-low mask. I think we should make a mask like that, like with space on it.
Or
space masks.
Definitely. Go on, Pete.
My other thinking was, instead of like masks that go around your nose and mouth, like like the face guards that
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Like something like
the plastic ones.
Yeah, because then you've still got like, you can still feel the air around you, but it doesn't like irritate people's skin, or like stuff like that. It doesn't make people feel claustrophobic. I can't speak.
Claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Have you seen, talking of masks, have you seen the ones that look like kind of fisherman hats with the plastic covers that you get on prams?
Yeah.
But like that, around it, and it's like trying to make these look cool. I've seen quite a lot of them, and they can be like in funky colours and stuff. So I've seen like a pink one with like this plastic cover on.
Yeah.
Seen, like, soft ones.
I saw a mask like what Kieran talked about, like face one, but it's in the markets. Like it said, the Waynes
Mm-hmm.
in Ed Lane. It got the Waynes logo on it.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's a market now for different types of masks. So get designing, Adam, and we'll have space branded masks. I think that's.
I don't need to. I'm just going to make it mandatory that everyone has to make a staff of social distancing. Job done. Everyone has to walk around with a staff of social distancing, waving it out like that.
Where is it?
Where is the staff? Well, it's in the car, but because of the heat, it actually broke into 2 pieces, which is great for me because it didn't actually fit in the car anyway. So it's now in 2 pieces in the car. So yeah, staff of social distancing.
Keep duct tape everywhere with them to fix it.
Well, we've got loads of that at Space because it's held together with duct tape. So yeah, it's good times. But yeah, I think that's been really, really helpful for us. Have you guys got any questions for me and Annie about what's going on with Space or anything that we've talked about?
I think if we carry on the social distancing for hopefully not much longer, but much longer in a way.
Yeah.
Is there going to be more like events and things, like virtual events and things going to be planned?
So one idea that was thrown about today was that we usually do a summer project and we want to try and do that again. Like we don't want to stop doing what we usually do because of what's going on. So we're looking at ways that we can do it that are a little bit more outside the box. And I know one suggestion today was the use of green screen. So if you'd imagine if we can have on the stage at Space maintaining social distancing, let's say we can have 5 people at once, 2 meters apart, and we were able to put a green screen behind them. What we could do then is do an online event, but we can put the set on the green screen. So rather than having set built up in Space that would take up more room, we could actually make set that way and be able to broadcast that show online. But we're constantly coming up with different ideas, and obviously when we do open our doors again, we'll be looking at you guys, see what ideas you guys have got as well.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, although we are youth workers at Space, just like yous, we're navigating this whole new thing with fresh eyes, and sometimes you guys come up with some amazing ideas, and we like to take them and say that we come out with them. So I like taking credit. So if you'd have a good idea, just slide me a DM, and I'll take the credit for that in the next staff meeting. So yeah.
We want to keep that's what we do best, isn't it?
Yeah, and we always make it work. We always, whatever show we've done, whatever production we've done, whatever problems we've come up against, we've always made it work. And this is just another one of those problems, and we'll make it work one way or another.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sound, guys. Well, thanks for taking part. This has been episode 11, and see you for the next one. For those that want to get involved, we're on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, Discord. We're on all kinds, aren't we, Annie? We're all over the place.
We're on every platform.
Every platform. Yeah, don't want to be on there. If you want to get involved in the podcast or you want to get involved in Discord, just send us a message and we'll get you involved. Not a problem. But yeah, thank you guys for being involved, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.